Hello, welcome to this new Procreate tutorial. And in this tutorial we're going to make a bag with tulips. And I thought this was real nice because spring is coming and in the Netherlands we like tulips, of course. So let's create a new canvas. So tap the plus here and then tap the plus there. We are going to create a canvas of 3000 by 3000 pixels. Tap create and now we have a nice canvas. First we're going to create a sketch and I'm going to grab my brush, let's see, my colored pencil brush, and I will place it in the Patreon post and everyone can grab it there, so you're free to use it. But you can use any sketch brush you like. For the size, well, doesn't matter exactly. Let's see, you have to see it clearly. 13% and a grayish color. That's all. Like this. The opacity is set to 100%, but that doesn't matter. First, let's create a bag, and I'm going to sketch it. When you sketch, not everything can be perfect at once, so don't be afraid to adjust things. Something like this. Bigger. And you can always tap the arrow here and move it around, of course. Play with your size. When it's set to uniform, the dimension will stay the same. When you choose for freeform or distort or even warp, the dimensions will change. Smaller. All right. Well, then some tulips, of course. First. Well, it's a sketch. And there's always one that's a little broken. Let's add some leaves. Looks a little bit messy now. That's no problem. Another detail to the paper bag. Because of course you have to have the possibility to lift it. Maybe something like this. We can add some other flowers too, of course. Kind of a mess, but you will see it will work in the end. The thing with this drawing is layering, because there will be things in front and things in the back side of the drawing, so that's a thing we have to take in mind and keep in mind. Okay, well, that's step one. Just one more detail. This. Alright, first we're going to define our layers. And we will start with the Monoline brush, and the Monoline brush is under calligraphy. And for the color, I will grab the fourth color in the second row, and you can grab the color palettes if you want in the Patreon post. So it's free for everyone, so grab it if you want. For the brush opacity, I will choose 100% and the brush size about 13%. Of course, we have to create a new layer, so tap the layer menu, tap the plus, and drag the layer underneath layer 1, because it's nice to have our sketch layer on top. So, okay, let's define the shape. If you let it snap to a perfect straight line, that would be nice. So leave your pencil on the screen and then it will snap to a perfect line. Make sure the shape is closed, drag the color in, and then we're going to create a new layer. So tap the layer menu again, tap the plus, and then there will be a new layer. And let's define the layer on the side. And it doesn't matter exactly, but I will choose another color, because in that way we can easily easily see the different sides. So I choose the third one in the second row. And now I don't want to let it snap, of course. So you can do it like this. Drag the color in. Always a surprise when you're not sure if it's closed. It's hard to see it like this. You can always choose only this layer. So I go to that layer and keep it like this, and now you can see it's not closed. Well, no problem, of course, we can close it. And now let's drag in the color. When you tap it like here again, everything will appear. Alright, next, the front of the bag. So tap the plus and the front will be in front of some of the leaves and so on, but don't matter of exactly now. Let's just define the base. And for the color I will choose the lightest one here. Let it snap to a perfect straight line and close the shape on the top. Sometimes it's a surprise if it works. Well, sometimes it doesn't. That's a bag. Well, now let's define some layers of the leaves. And these layers are behind that one, of course. So they will be on top of the inside and they will be on top of the side, but they will be underneath the front. And that's something, well, you have to experience. So I'm going to the layer 3 and then I tap the plus. And so we have to start from the back. Well, what's in the back? We can choose. Can we choose every? Yeah, I think we can choose all the tulips. So I go for a green for the stems. Make sure you close the shape. Drag the color in. Look, now the shape isn't closed, so I have to close it. And then I can drag the color in. This is a surprise. Yeah, works. So let's create the tulips on a second or next layer. So I tap the layer menu again, tap the plus, and now I can add the tulips. So I'm going to create just a base, and I will use this one, the third one in the first row. then I have to decide what leaves are behind the tulips. So we have to create a new layer for that, and we can tap layer 3, tap the plus, and then you can fill the leaves that are behind. So I'm going to choose one lighter color just to see what I'm doing, because we will adjust the colors. I will take the second one in the third row. So I think this leaf is behind. And maybe this one. Make sure to close the shape. Okay, and there will be leaves in front of the tulips. So go to the layer menu again, tap the tulip layer, then tap the plus, and now we can add some leaves in front. Make sure to close the shape. No, I'm doing that. Oh. When you want to undo an action, you can tap with 2 fingers, and when you want to redo it, you can tap with 3 fingers. So that will fill it. There's a big one here, and I'm going to add that one on a separate layer, so that will be even more in front. So I tap the layer menu again, tap the plus, like this, and you can always say, well, let's choose a lighter color, no problem, then you can see it. And in this layer I can add this one too, but no, we can't add it, because when we add it here, this won't be in front of the front side of the bag. So we have to do that on the layer in front of the bag. So you go to the front of the bag, then tap the plus, and now we can add this area here. And this one. And then I want to add the tulip here, so I go to the layer menu again, tap the plus, then I go to a purple color, it doesn't matter exactly. I'm going to create a base for the tulip. Like this. Well, we can add these two, of course, and maybe we can add them on the layer before, but you can add another layer, doesn't matter. Well, let's add another layer. just simple as that. Tap the plus and create. Well, of course not with purple, take a green, and doesn't matter exactly because we are going to work on these layers. But it's nice to have a base in place. That wasn't a close shape. Well, if you want to check it, well, of course, I can grab that. Make sure the shape is closed. Tap that mark again and everything appears. Well, I think we're almost there. Maybe we can add the little stems of the other flowers. Then we have to add this area, this one, the little hearts, and this area. So I'm going to add another layer for this section. So I go to the layer menu, tap the plus. For the color, I will choose the darkest color here. And now I have to be careful because in fact this area is behind that. So make sure you don't go over that. Of course you can place this layer underneath. Okay, well, that's it. We can add another layer. For those little holes in the bag. And another layer. And you can always merge layers when you have too much layers, but it's sometimes it's really handy to have things on separate layers. Well, let's choose something like this. Let's see if we turn off. Yeah, it's looking nice. Then we have to create this area, and of course this one will be behind that little rope, so go to layer 14, or in fact underneath that layer, that's important, and then tap the plus. And for the color I will choose a darker color. Tap the rope. I'll create this little rope. And then the hearts. Well, we can do it on a separate layer again, so tap the plus. And for the color I will go to the reddish color. And I will fill it. Well, I think we can turn off the sketch layer, switch off the sketch layer, and now we have our base in place. And it seems a little complicated, but when you have the base, it's easier to fill in all the little funny details. Well, let's first start with the tulips. So I'm going to the tulips, layer 6, that's for me, And I don't want to go outside the edges of the tulips, so I tap the tulips here and I choose Alpha Lock. And in this way I can't go outside the tulips. And for the color I will choose the bright pink color. For the brush I will choose Artistic and then Aurora. For the brush size, let's see, yeah, that's great. I will choose 8%, and for the opacity I will choose 80%. And you'll see when you color it, you will get nice. Oh, of course, this one isn't on that layer. And let's do the same for the other one. So choose the other tulip, choose Alpha Lock, and create a nice base. And let's go to the other tulips again. Maybe the orangey color, and add some details. Just by other one. Now let's define some shadows and some lights on the tulips. So go to the tulips. So for me that's layer 6. And now we can do several things, but I think I'm going to use clipping mask. So I tap the plus and then I set this layer to clipping mask, and now it's clipped to that layer, and I can just work on these pixels, but it will be in a separate layer. And I will start with the airbrush tool, and I will go for the soft airbrush, a small brush size of 10%. The color is the lightest pink color in the first row. Let's see, and the brush opacity is 26%. And now I'm going to define some lights, as if the light is hitting the edges of the tulip, the separate, well, how do you call it? And when you're not sure about the form, you can always switch on the sketch layer, of course. Okay, well, then I want to add some shadows, and the shadows are underneath this layer, because let's turn on or switch off the sketch layer. Look, this edge will give a shadow on the petal that's underneath. So let's go for a darker color, of course. Maybe the darkest purple color here. And in the layer menu, we're going to add another layer underneath this one. So go to the tulips, tap the plus, and it's already set to clipping mask. So when I add shadow, the shadow will be underneath the light. I can add some shadow here. And in that way we can work. That didn't work. Okay, let's do the same for the other tulip. So let's go to the other tulip, add another layer, and of course you can use create the shadows first, but for me it's always a little difficult to see where the shadows are before the petals are in. So I choose clipping mask, and then I go to the lighter color first, the pinkish color. And then I add another layer, and then the darker color, and then I add the shadows. But you can do it the other way around, of course. Maybe I don't like that light. So I go to that light layer again, the highlights, and I just darken it a little. Well, you can play around with all those nice little things, but I think I have some depth in the tulips now. Well, then I can work on the bag, of course. So let's go to the front side of the bag. And I've created a nice brush for you. Okay, it's named Paper Bag. And I will set the brush opacity to 57% and the brush size to 7%. For the color, I will choose a lighter color. Now let's see, this one. The fourth in the second row. Let's see, yes, that works. And then you can... Oh, we forgot something. I'm sure you know it. We have to set this layer to alpha lock. So go to the front of the bag and set it to alpha lock. And that's really important, of course. Otherwise we go outside these edges. Okay, well, now let's do the same for the side. So let's go to the side. Where is it? It's here. And for the color I will choose a darker color because it's inside the bag. It will be a little darker. So I go to this color. Let's see. Yeah, that works. And of course we have to set that layer to alpha lock too. Like this. Okay, well, now we can add lights and darks to the leaves. So we have to do that step by step. And first let's go to layer 7. And when you don't know where you are, you can always go do it like this. And now we have just selected these leaves. Again, first I see that there's a gap here, so I want to fill that. And I can fill it with the Monoline brush. Because I don't want holes in my leaves. You can adjust forms if you want to. Okay, now you can set this layer to alpha lock. Let's check if the forms are right. Well, I think so. And now we can add lights and darks. For the brush, I will go to the soft airbrush. And first I'm going to add the lights. So I take the lighter color here. Let's see. Yeah, that works. Maybe somewhat larger. I will choose 20% and for the brush opacity 30%. So define some lights to the leaves. And of course there are darks too, so I go to the darkest color and add a darker side. Maybe you want some texture. Well, therefore I have a nice texture brush. Let's use the Wave Mist Regular. I will post it. Just some sparkles. Same. Alright, well, let's see if it works. Looks good to me. Next layer, the stems. Select that one. Make sure the forms are just in place. And we can add some texture there. There's under textures, there's a Dove Lake brush. For the color, I will choose this darker color, the brownish color. For the brush size, I will choose, well, let's see. Always funny. Let's set this layer to alpha lock. So just a few strokes. The brush size was 6% and the brush opacity 67. Then a lighter color. Well, let's choose the fourth one in the last row. Just some hints. Then I want to add some highlights, so I choose the lightest color, and I imagine that the light is coming from this side. A smaller brush size of 3%. Let's add, look, let's add some light. Then, let's see, looks good. Alright, next layer. Select the layer by tapping it, and now we can add lights and darks. Go to the airbrush, go to the soft airbrush again. For the color, we will choose the lightest color first. Let's set it to alpha lock, don't make the mistake again. The brush size is still set to 21% here, and the opacity is 30%. And you can add some darks, So I choose the darkest color here. And of course, when you want to blend things, when you don't like it, you can always go to the magic wand here, then go to Gaussian Blur, then tap Layer, and then slide your pencil to the right. In that way, you will get really soft transitions. So you can do that. Alright, tap the plus, and I want to add some sparkles. So I go to the Wave Mist Regular again. I go to a darker color and add some dots. That's it. Next layer. Let's choose this one. There's something here. I'm sure it doesn't belong there, so let's get rid of it, erase it. Okay, let's set this area to alpha lock again and do the same. So we are going to add some darks and some lights. So I start with the light. The brush is the airbrush again. So I add some light, then I add some dark with the darkest color. And maybe you want to blur it a little, so go to the magic wand, go to Gaussian Blur, then tap Layer, and then slide slightly to the right, and I will go for 3%. Then tap the magic wand again, and maybe you want to add some texture too, so go to the texture brush, the Wave Mist Regular. That's it. Okay, we're ready for the next layer. Let's go to these. For me it's layer 10, and I will select it first to see how it looks. Well, I think it looks quite nice. Then I can choose alpha lock with the airbrush. I'm going to define my lights and my darks. So first the lights. I'm always adding as if the light is coming from this side. And then I add some darks, maybe a mid-tone first. So you can choose a darker green. And then the darkest one for the shadows. Maybe you want to blur it a little, so go to the magic wand, go to Gaussian Blur, tap Layer, and then slide slightly to the right. And I will go for 2.4%. Then tap the magic wand to get out of the menu, tap the Layer menu, and then tap this one, and now you can see everything. Well, maybe I want to add some texture to the leaves too. So I can go to the texture brush again. That was the wrong one, the sparkle brush. And for the color I will choose the darkest green. Like this. Well, next layer. Let's go for this one. I think that, yes. And I'm going to add some texture to these and some lights and darks to these. So, of course, tap alpha lock. Set it to alpha lock. Then I will start with adding some lights to those little stems, so these thin stems. So I choose the lightest color here. For the brush, I will choose the Dove Lake again. It's under textures. And for the leaves I will go to the airbrush. For the color, first start with the lightest color. And maybe you want to add a mid-tone too. So a mid-tone green. And the darks are already in place here. So I go to the magic wand, I go to the Gaussian Blur, the layer, and then slide slightly to the right for 3% or so. Well, then I tap the layer menu again. And I think we can add some texture. So let's go for the sparkle brush again, the wave mist regular, and of course we have to add some darker color, some lighter color. Alright, well, I see a little problem here. This triangle should be just behind this one, and there's a little piece sticking out, sticking into the front. There's a really easy solution. I go to that layer and drag that layer underneath the front layer. So in that way it's immediately solved. So not any problem at all. Then I want some texture to that area. So I go to that area, of course set it to alpha lock. Then for the brush I will go to the Dove Lake again. And for the color I will choose this color, the second one. And that gives just a slight texture to this area. And maybe you can imagine that this area is a little darker and this area is a little lighter. So we can grab a lighter color and add some light to this area. Maybe I want this to be gone. So you can grab the eraser, and when you want to erase in a really harsh way, and I think that's the case in this situation, we can choose the Monoline Brush. So you go to the eraser, tap the eraser, and then tap Airbrush, and then tap Monoline. And in that way it's easy to erase in a really sharp way. I can do the same here too. I think we can darken the inside of the bag. I think it's a little too light, so go to the right layer, of course tap alpha lock, and let's try a darker color. So I choose the darker, not the really darks, but the second in the second row. Let's add it. Well, that's much better. And that's so easy because we have set it to several layers, and this way we can manipulate really easy. Well, now we have to go to the rope and the heart, of course. Well, let's start with the heart and set it to alpha lock again. Let's define some lighter spots and some darker spots. I will go for this salmon-like color. Of course, I will go to the airbrush, the soft airbrush. Let's see. Maybe too light. Slightly darker. Maybe this one. Yeah, that works, that's better. Just a touch of light and a touch of dark, so I grab this one. Maybe a hint of a really bright highlight. And a really dark side, so I grab a brown. And when I choose Gaussian Blur again, we can blur it. So I go to the magic wand, the Gaussian Blur layer, and then I slide to the right. Now it has a little form, but of course it gives some shadow on the back. So we have to create another layer. Where can we place it? That's always the question. Well, I think it will work to place it just underneath this one. So I go to that rope layer and tap the plus. Now I can choose the darker color again. And I can create a little shadow. All right. For the rope, we have to go to the rope layer again. So tap the rope layer and set it to alpha lock. Make sure it's set to alpha lock. And I want a really brighter color on the rope. So I'm going for the brightest color there. And for the pencil, I'm going to the colored pencil. The colored pencil is also added to the post, so you can grab it, free for everyone. That works. Now this, well, how do you call it? Well, you know what I mean. This layer, we have to go to that one. Of course, set it to alpha lock. For the color, I'm going to use the lightest color here. And I will just proceed with the colored pencil to add just some texture, maybe a darker color too for the origin. So I choose this one, the fourth one in the second row. Like this. Now you can adjust things. Look, we can create a shadow underneath the rope. Shadowed side. Well, we're almost there. Let's give the background some color. So go to the layer menu, then go to background, and you can choose a color here. Well, I think, well, I like it this way. It's a kind of bluish grayish color. I can add it to the color palette, so you can choose it. Alright, but of course, always free to manipulate and make it your own. Then we can add some shadow underneath the back. So we have to do that underneath every layer, just on top of the backgrounds. So let's go to the layer 2 tap plus, and it always goes on top of that layer, so you have to drag it underneath. Listen. And place it just behind the background. For the color, I will choose the darkest brown color here, and of course for the shadow I will go for the big soft airbrush. No, the normal soft airbrush. Well, you can choose the big soft airbrush. And when you're smart, you already took that from another post. Well, that doesn't work. Let's see. That works. The brush size is 15% and the opacity is 23%. And you can always play with the Gaussian Blur, so tap the magic wand, go to Gaussian Blur, tap Layer and then slide slightly to the right to see what you like for the shadow. I think this is okay, for me it's 12%. Then tap the magic wand to get out of that menu. Well, then I want to add some white sparkly textures, as if there are other flowers there too. So I go to the lightest color here. For the brush I will go to Elements, and no, that's not on, it's under Organic, sorry. And there's snow gum there. Of course we have to do it in a separate layer, just on top of everything. So go to the top layer, then tap the plus, and I will add some. And maybe the brightest color, when you tap double, it will snap to perfect white. I will add it, but you can grab it there too. Yeah, that looks great. So you start with a darker one, and the size is 5% and the opacity is 100%. Then I switch to the brightest color and I give it some sparkle here and there, not everywhere. Maybe a bigger brush size of 10%. And of course you can play around and see what you like. And maybe you want to decorate the bag and the sides of the holes here, so I go to the front side and then I go to the colored pencil again, and with the light I'm going to add some highlight here. well, maybe some sparkle to the bag too. So I go to the element again and to the same brush we had before. No, to the organic and to the snow gum. And I'm going for a, well, maybe this one, the second one, just to decorate it. Maybe a lighter one too. Let's see. No, this to create some color variation. So you can play around, of course. And maybe an even brighter one, so the pinkish. Okay, and then I want to add here some funny texture too, so I go to that layer and do the same here. Well, maybe add some detail to the background, so I go to the bottom layer, for me that's layer 23, and you can add some dots and spots as if they are leaves or petals that are on the floor or on the table. Well, I hope you liked it, and I hope that you create something like this and show me, tag me on Instagram or on Facebook. I would love to see your creations, and of course maybe you want some more tutorials. Well, hop over to my Patreon page. You can learn a lesson from me every week, and I will show you some of this month's tutorials. This one is one. This one is about layering, and I've created special brushes with the theme Amsterdam, and they are for my first 50 patrons, and they are just fun. Really just fun. You can use them for all kind of illustrations. Let me show you. All canal houses, a bicycle, a windmill, Amsterdammertjes. I don't know how you call them, but they're really specific for Amsterdam. Some stairs, and this is a nice tutorial about layering. And let me show you another one. I've created this one. This is a lesson for this month. And it's all about reflections and creating nice smooth sky. Then this one, it's quite spectacular, I think. It comes with really cool fur brushes, and well, I think it's quite realistic. Well, maybe you don't think it, but I think it's quite nice, and when you have those fur brushes, I'm sure you will have a lot of fun with them. And another one that will be on Patreon soon is this beautiful wave. So if you want to learn more from me in Procreate, well, join the fun. I would love to see you there. And well, have a nice day and color the world.